Please take your seats, please. Good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, February the 14th. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody, especially my wife. I hereby call the local government committee to order. Madam Clerk, you will please take the roll.
Representatives Alexander, Burkhart, Carr, Doggett, Hale, Haynes, Holsclaw, Love, Martin, McKenzie, Miller, Moon, Raper, Reedy, Rudd, Shaw, Slater, Stevens, Thompson, Vice Chairman Wright, Chairman Crawford. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The chair will take privilege. I would like to take just a second for a personal order and let everyone know today that our research analyst, Mr. Ryan Baird here, today is his 29th, or a few days ago was his 29th birthday, but we're celebrating today. Do any of the other committee members have any announcements or personal orders? Representative Love, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Certainly want to recognize two interns from my office, Fisk University students, Representative Sam McKenzie, Ms. Naga Nukoto, and Makaya Red. I hope I pronounced those right. Would y'all please make them welcome?
Any other personal orders or announcements? Seeing none, we'll jump into the agenda. We have 5 bills today. Our first bill will be House Bill 130. Without objection, it will be rolled 1 week. Next on the agenda, we have House Joint Resolution number 13 by Leader Lamberth. Got a proper motion in second. Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And there should be an amendment that makes the bill 003850.
That is correct. Correct drafting number. Proper motion. Is there a second? Second on the amendment. Leader Lamberth, you're recognized on your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It does not make the bill. It deletes on the first resolving clause, and it just exempts out of this our assessors of property. They're on the off years, and it just doesn't line up with the other county offices.
Any questions for the leader on the amendment? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on the amendment. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The amendment is now on the bill. You're recognized, Leader Lamberth, on your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This just begins the process on a constitutional amendment where the people of Tennessee would decide whether or not their county elections would be in May, August, like they are now, or as this would propose in August, November. The goal would be obviously to save money, streamline our election processes, and get more folks involved in each particular election.
Any questions for the leader? Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the sponsor. I definitely understand the core intent of this bill, but my question is, have you been in consult with the county leaders and the County Commissioner Association, the County Mayor Association, and any of those folks, and have they opined either pro or against?
Leader, you're recognized.
I mean, in general, they'll run whenever the elections are up. I mean, they don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I've not received any organized effort one way or the other on this bill. I mean, they, in general, seem to be relatively neutral on this. I have spoken to some that are in favor, some that have questions, but in general, if the people of this state were to amend the Constitution, basically they'll run whenever the elections are up.
Representative McKenzie, you're recognized for a follow-up.
Thank you, Ned. This is my last question. And so is the intent of this bill to increase voter participation?
Leader Lamberth.
Absolutely. You said earlier, the intent of the bill is, one intent of the bill is to increase voter participation. Higher turnout elections simply yield better results in elections almost every single time because the folks that are elected have a greater amount of buy-in from the community that they have run to serve. And so if you've got 10% of the population that's participating in an election, 90% of the people didn't choose those folks. If you've got 60% participation in an election, which we would hope for higher, but it doesn't get much higher than that most of the time. At least you've got well over half of the people in that district or that area that have chosen those individuals to represent them. So higher turnout's always a good thing.
Representative Thompson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, this is permissive? It's going to be county choice or?
Leader,
No, sir, this would be up to the choice of the people of the great state of Tennessee. If they choose to move it to August, November, that's when it would move to.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Shaw. Any other questions? Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Leader Lambert, under the constitutional amendment, it will only impact judges. Is that correct?
Leader,
Well, so this involves all county officials. So in other words, your county commissioners, county mayor, assessor, I mean, everybody except for the ones that obviously we exempted out their assessor of property because they're on an entirely different cycle from the rest of the county officials. So no, sir, it's all county officials, including the local county judges.
Okay.
any other questions?
Just-
Representative Miller for follow-up.
Yes, just a follow-up. For an example, DAs and the judges have an 8-year term. Other county officials, 4-year term, state representatives 2, et cetera, et cetera. So at any given point, if this were to be the case, would that in any given year decrease the number of individuals that are actually on a ballot that's running? For an example, I think the last time judges and DAs ran for office, it was a time where state representative was on. I mean, we had almost over 80 individuals on that particular ballot. Would that change that at all?
Leader Lambert.
So all the folks that are running now, so everybody you've listed you will have some ballots that are a little bit longer in November. No doubt about it. But I mean, they're already relatively long ballots in November. So, but I trust the people of Tennessee to decide. I mean, we're not saying that it's moving to August and November. We're saying we're going to let the people of Tennessee decide. That's what a constitutional amendment is. If that's a consideration that they take into account, I trust the people to be able to wade through a ballot no matter how long it is. Sometimes it takes a little longer, but I mean, there's folks that turn out to vote for all kinds of different reasons. Sometimes they're showing up because they really want to be involved in their county commission race. Other times it's state rep, other time it's DA or judge. But the good news is when they show up, those other officers will be on the ballot as well. So again, hopefully it raises the participation rate for every election.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing me this question. And, I served at one time on Knox County Commission. One of my concerns on this bill, and it's just a logistical concern, that is the county starts its year swearing in like September. So that's the reason for that August election. So I'm sure some other counties are that way. So how do you propose resolving that if they're not elected until November? From a budgeting standpoint, from a true representation standpoint, there may be some issues with that.
Leader Lambert.
In the language of this bill, it moves it obviously from August to November. So they would begin in November instead of September. So it bumps it up a couple of months.
Follow-up, Mr. McKenzie.
Yep, but they'll end up with the year starting in a theoretical situation is there's discretionary spending that each commissioner has, each mayor has. That outgoing lame duck mayor has an opportunity to do some budgets, some spending that would not align with the current year, if you understand what I'm saying.
Leader Lambert.
No, sir, with all due respect, you're losing me a little bit because, and maybe y'all's budget cycle runs a little different than ours, but ours runs July 1 through June 30th. That's our budget year. And so even with those that are coming in September, in fact, our new county commission, we had a turnover in our county commission in Sumner County, and it's majority new county commissioners. Well, the outgoing county commission had already set the budget, had been approved and voted on by the time they came in September. The exact same will be true in November. So maybe y'all have a different budget structure, but I think most of the counties run July 1 to June 30th.
Any other questions for the leader? Question has been called on the bill. We're ready to vote. All those in favor of House Bill 0013 as amended, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. If you'd like to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Item number 3, House Bill 319, and I think Representative Cochran, you're presenting this bill?
That's correct, Mr.
Do I
Chair.
have a motion? Proper motion and second. Representative Cochran, you are recognized on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And House Bill 319, I believe in subcommittee, was brought to you by Representative Gant. He was unable to be here today, so I'm here to run it. And so this is an administration bill. We were working very closely with TDEC, and essentially it is a bill to promote some further development for our brownfield sites in the state. And of course, I believe probably if you're on this committee, you're familiar with those sites. Those are ones that, it's a previously developed property that has real or perceived environmental contamination. And so this bill provides more funding, again, to hopefully market and further develop those sites. And I will yield to any questions. And we have TDEC here as well if we need to get further into the details.
Chairman Moon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did notice in the proposal that one of the cleanup sites is Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And my question is there going to be federal money provided to backfill what the state of Tennessee provides?
Representative Cochran, you're recognized.
Chairman, I'll be honest with you, I do not have the answer to that question. I don't know if TDEC has that one, if you want to go out of session and hear from them or not. That's your call.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I think there's timing, and I understand possibly that things aren't moving quickly enough. But my question is, there's quite a few $1 million involved. So if TDEC could give us an answer, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, we will go out of session to hear from the department. Please state your name for the record. Chairman Moon, will you re-ask the question?
I noticed in the proposed budget that Oak Ridge, Tennessee was one of the cleanup sites. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's not related to this piece of legislation, but there is, I think, 25 million in the budget right now. as
Please state
proposed.
your name for the record.
I'm so sorry, Chairman. Blair Beatty, Legislative Director with Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my question is, if the state goes ahead, will federal funds backfill what we spend? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. That is my understanding, is that we are seeking to expedite the cleanup at Oak Ridge and then go forth with cost recovery to get those funds back.
Thank you for your answer.
Yes, sir.
Without objection, we'll go back in session. We are now back in session. Is there any more questions? Okay. Representative Shaw, would you mind redacting that? We have several people on the list here. Representative Alexander, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. My question was for Blair. Are we in session or out of session? I'm not
We
sure. I
are,
don't
we are
wanna
back in session.
Correct.
Do I
Okay.
need to?
Well, I can't ask her a question. if-
Okay.
I don't think. That's right.
Without objection, we'll go out of session. Representative Alexander, you're recognized.
Thank you, Blair. Thank you for being here. A question is the cleanup and the redevelopment benefits, that's going to go for various projects across the state. That's separate from what my friend, Mr. Moon was talking about, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there will be more opportunities for cleanup in various parts of the state.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Redevelopment.
And the grant program is going to be like 5 million, or at least that's the asking thing for right now.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Non-recurring.
Okay,
Or, I'm sorry, recurring. I said
Recurring.
non-recurring. Yes, ma'am.
got it. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman. Sorry for that inconvenience.
No problem. Is there any more questions before we go back in session? Representative Holtzclaw, you're recognized.
Thank you, and thank you for being here, Blair. I think this is an awesome bill.
Sorry.
Are all those grants yet to be determined? I mean, we apply for them. What's the deal?
No, sir.
Please state your name for the record.
Yes, sir, Chairman. I'm sorry. Blair Beatty, Department of Environment and Conservation. No, sir, we're actually still working on the guidelines and the grant manual and things like that for when we are planning to roll out the grant. I have a one-sheeter that I'm happy to drop off with your office that has some general guidelines, but we're still working on that. And we plan on doing a lot of education and outreach, hoping that the bill passes between July and December, because we recognize that the only way this grant program is successful is if your folks know about it and know that they can come and access that funding and that technical expertise through the department.
And
Chairman
please-
Holtzclaw.
Thank you, Chairman. And please do that. You know, I think this is great because you're targeting those tier 3 and tier 4 rural counties, which very much need the help. So
Yes, sir.
thank you for answers. Thank you for being here, Blair.
Thank you, sir.
Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Ms. Blair, you've answered the question, my questions. Thank you.
Any other questions for the department? Without objection, we'll go back in session. We're back in session. Leader Cochran, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nothing further. I feel like I kind of threw Blair in the line of fire there. I appreciate her being here and answering questions, but I'll yield to any others if you have them.
Any other question? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of House Bill 319 moving on, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
Next, we have on our list House Bill 486 by Chairman Boyd. Proper motion and second on the bill. You're recognized, Chairman Boyd, on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. So what House Bill 486 seeks to do, and just to give you a little background, is, when you register as a PAC or you register as a candidate, there are federal candidates, and then at the state level, we have state level candidates, state level PACs, which we file with the Tennessee Bureau of Campaign Finance Ethics, and then the local candidates file locally in their county. And everyone kind of goes to their respective regulatory agency with regard to reporting, with the exception of state PACs. And so if a state PAC gives to a state candidate, everything's fine. If they donate to a local candidate, it creates a reporting requirement to that county. And so what this bill seeks to do, because all the counties are different, some want it on paper, some want it faxed in, some have websites. What this does, since a state level PAC is already filing with the state, and as soon as you hit the button and submit it, anyone with access to the internet anywhere in the world can learn everything they want to know about your PAC, then this simply takes away the local reporting requirement and says that the state will handle that. Mr. Chairman, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Is there any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of House Bill 486 moving on, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to calendar and rules. Thank you, Chairman.
Chairman of Committee.
I've got one item of cleanup here on your item number 2, House Joint Resolution 0013 by Leader Lamberth. I moved that out under HB, and we need to move that out as HR 13, HJR 13. Item number 5, House Bill 30 by Representative Doggett. Got a proper motion and second. Chairman Doggett, as soon as you get there, we will.
You want me to go down there?
You don't have to. You can present without objection from the committee. You're recognized.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if you wish for me to go to the podium, I'll be glad to. But I do have an amendment coded 3060 that makes the bill.
That is correct. Amendment drafting code 3060. Got a proper motion and second on the amendment. You're recognized on the amendment, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill requires a person in jurisdictions with an adult-oriented establishment board to obtain a valid entertainer permit from the board prior to performing adult cabaret entertainment for compensation. Prohibits private, public, and commercial establishments from allowing a person younger than 18 to attend performances featuring adult cabaret entertainers. And with that, I stand prepared for questions.
All right, committee, we do have some speakers on this, it looks like. So is there anyone has a question on the amendment before I go out of session? Seeing none, we will go out of session and we'll hear from one of our speakers, Lynn Purvis. Thank you for being with us today. Please state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Lynn Purvis, and I'm coming from Cannon County. I am a performer. I've done drag. I also work in the court system, and I see every day how important it is for laws to be very clearly defined. I think we all know what a person is, county, adult, but this law thought it necessary to precisely define what those things mean. But what's a male or female impersonator? What is entertainment suitable for mature audiences? It's not defined in this law. The existing code precisely defined adult entertainment and adult cabaret, specifying the sexual activities and parts of the body that fall into these categories. How can you create adult cabaret entertainment without defining its components? And the code that we're looking at is adult-oriented establishments, but this new category overreaches into entertainment that's happening specifically outside of these establishments, where we already have laws about lewdness, public indecency that would protect our children. What's a private establishment? Is that my own home? I don't know. It's not defined in this bill. So you've taken a law that specifies what types of activities happening in what kinds of places need to be licensed and out of view, and insert this language that leaves it up to anyone's interpretation as to who, what, and where. Is Shania Twain violating because, she wore a suit and tie at Grammys? Is that male impersonation? Will national acts that come through Music City have to go and license all of their performers to do a show? And more importantly, is every trans or gender nonconforming person, by your definition or lack of definition, an impersonator? So with so much undefined, the only thing that's clear is the intention, to restrict queer performers that challenge beliefs about gender. But you can't come out and say that because that's discrimination on gender or sexual orientation, and the Constitution protects our right for expression. If I'm wrong, then why are we including male and female impersonators in a list with exotic and topless dancers, who are by definition performing adult-oriented content? Being a male or female impersonator is not inherently about exposing body parts or performing sexual contact. In fact, most drag performances are just people lip-syncing pop songs and wearing lots and lots of clothes. As a drag performer myself, I always tailored my content to be appropriate for the age level of my audience, as any performer should have the right to do. Drag as a genre is not dangerous to children. It doesn't make a kid gay or trans, but it can help queer kids who are suffering see that there's hope of freely expressing themselves one day. I encourage you all to Google the phrase, "drag saved my life," and you can read account after account of people who are alive today because they saw drag shows as a young person. So if this is truly just about erotic performances, then strike the term male and female impersonator and remove this poorly defined adult cabaret entertainment category. It's a vague rewrite of a very specific law that's going to harm not only queer Tennesseans like myself, but also the entertainment industry as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Purvis. Is there any questions for the speaker? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you
Without
so much for
objection,
listening to me.
We will go back into session. We are now back on Amendment 3060. Is there any questions for the sponsor on the amendment? Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I've received on my email, and I'm assuming a number of members on this particular bill, more than most. And I said, okay, let me pay attention and see what's really going on here. Right now, just one question, and it's to the sponsor. And this is one email who supports prohibiting minors under the age of 18 from attending adult cabaret entertainment. Rather, it is in public, private, or commercial establishment. My question, how do you define private?
Chairman Doggett, you're recognized.
bill that we have is focusing on one section of code called the Adult Oriented Establishment Registration Act of 1998. If you will look through that section of code, you will find where a lot of the verbiage that is taken from my amendment comes specifically exact word for word out of the section of code. We're just referencing sections of code. In reference to private, public, or those are establishments that, whether they are privately owned or if they are done publicly in the public view, that they will have to be 18 or older to be able to attend if the adult-oriented performance is considered to be harmful to minors and includes the list of performers that are there.
Representative Miller for follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, you are excluding the definition of private, the home of an individual. Is that inclusive of the definition under private
Chairman Doggett.
or not?
It is, I don't want to say inclusive or exclusive. I couldn't understand really what you were saying. Let me say it like this. It does not include the home of a private individual.
Thank you.
Next on our list is Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the sponsor, my first question to you, if you can answer this, is where did this legislation come from?
Chairman Doggett.
Thank you for that. Over the past, this last year, there was adult-themed entertainment in the county in which I reside, where minors were present. They were placing dollar bills into the underwear of performers. And so our district attorney looked at the current statutes that we have here on the books, and conversations with the state attorney general said that there was nothing to prevent that type of activity from occurring. And so we came back and looked at the law to see what were ways that we could prevent things that were considered harmful to minors, which is a reference of code that we already utilize, a definition there, and we put that into this bill. So the whole purpose of this bill is to prevent minors from being in a place where there is sexually explicit activities that are going on. And if someone is going to perform and receive compensation, they have to have a license to a local adult-oriented establishment board.
Representative Shaw for follow-up.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you not think that that is the parents' responsibility to make sure that their kids what they should and should not attend?
Chairman Doggett.
I agree. There's a lot of things that parents to determine, but we also state in law that a parent can't take their 8-year-old to a strip club.
Representative Shaw.
Yes, I understand it. I guess the problem I have, and maybe my view of this could be very different from yours, and I respect that, but I took an oath not to judge people, but to represent people. And I'm a little bit leery when we vote on legislation that starts to judge people. While I may totally disagree with their lifestyle, I think it's a higher being and a higher power that helps them to transition into a better life. But my oath, there was nowhere in my oath for me to judge anybody, but to represent people. And I have a problem with legislation that gets into taking away the right of a parent or anybody's rights, when it comes to life itself. While I may totally disagree, but what I would do with my child is to make sure my child does not attend that kind of a function. I wouldn't expect the law to do what I need to do as a parent. So I I guess that's what bothers me a little bit because, you know, all of us, and I certainly end my phrase, but I remember that biblical story where Jesus said to the folks that were stoning the woman, if anybody in the crowd have not sinned, be the first to throw the stone. And so I have a problem with that for that reason. Thank you.
Chairman Rudd?
Yeah, I wanted to thank the sponsor for bringing this recently in Murfreesboro in the city park. They held this type of performance and it was very sexually explicit on stage, simulated sex, and minors were present. And I would hope that the parents who brought their children to see this didn't know that was going to happen on stage. But at some point, the state has to come in, whether it's a child being mistreated or endangered or malnutrition or something in schools or something, the state has to come in at some point to protect children. But I want to thank you for bringing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative McKenzie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I dare say what happened there in Rutherford County, if it is as described, that would have been an arrestable offense. I think that particular lewd act already, those laws already exist on the current books. But my question to the sponsor is similar to what I asked last week, and that is what one of the things that concern me, and I think is an open door for us in terms of overreach potentially, and that is this catch-all phrase that you talk about, very specifically, go-go dancers, exotic dancers, topless, male and female, as the person indicated, that that's some ambiguity in that. But then you said, or similar entertainers. That's a wide swath. And that's when it gets into that judgment factor. And I know you as a person of law enforcement, it's dicey when we get into that. So could you help me understand what similar entertainers means?
Chairman Doggett?
Thank you. That would be something we'd have to refer to legal services for to define that. That is currently already in code listed under adult cabaret in 751-1102. It's also referenced in 751-1401. That's something that is listed there. So if legal services may have a definition that we could reference as to if similar entertainers is listed anywhere else in the code.
Without objection, we'll go out of session to hear from legal. Legal, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Josh Houston from Legal Services. So a way that a court would interpret this is that similar entertainers follows along with the other types of entertainers that are actually listed, which is go-go dancers, exotic dancers, strippers, male or female impersonators, and then any other thing that seems like it would fit in that same list, they would consider included.
Representative Doggett?
Thank you. May I ask a question to legal services while we're out of session?
Yes.
In that definition on the amendment here for adult cabaret entertainment, are there elements that have to be met in conjunction with that talks about featuring these other entertainers?
Legal?
Yes, the definition says that it means adult-oriented performances that are harmful to minors, as that term is defined in 3917-901. And I can read that definition if you'd like.
If you would, please.
Harmful to minors means that that quality of any description or representation in whatever form of nudity, sexual excitement, sexual conduct, excess violence, or sadomasochistic abuse, when the matter or performance, A, would be found by the average person applying contemporary community standards to appeal predominantly to the prurient, shameful, or morbid interests of minors, B, is patently offensive to prevailing standards in the adult community as a whole with respect to what is suitable for minors, and C, taken as a whole, lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific values for minors.
Thank you, legal. Is there any questions for legal before we go back into session? Seeing none, we're back in session. Chairman Doggett, you're recognized on your bill.
Well, thank you. I renew my motion.
We have a couple other speakers. Representative Love, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think legal made reference to the definition in 397901 about excessive violence. And I think we just had testimony yesterday from, I think, tourism, that Nashville is trying to get a WWE event here that's going to probably yield about $125 million in revenue. So my question is, would that fall into the category of excessive violence in the performance in that particular wrestling match?
Chairman Doggett,
No, sir, it would not.
Representative Love for a follow-up.
Well, okay. I guess I would wonder what in that wrestling match would exclude it from excessive violence. Only because I've seen some of these entertainments, folks jumping off the top of the ring and picking up chairs and smacking somebody, and maybe they don't cut folks' heads anymore. They used to when I was watching Jerry the King Lawler on Saturdays. And they have women also. So you're saying they would not fall into this category of excessive violence?
Chairman Doggett.
No, sir, they would not. They are considered artistic, theatrical performances. Wrestling is not real.
Any more outbursts and I will clear this room. We will have decorum in here.
Thank you,
Representative
Chairman.
Love.
Thank you, Chairman Doggett. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
Representative Alexander. Thank you. Any more questions for the sponsor on the amendment? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on Amendment 3060. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The bill is now amended. If you'd like to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk. We are now on House Bill 30 as amended. We have a question that's been called on the bill. We are ready to vote on House Bill 30. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Bill moves on to Finance, Ways and Means. If you'd like to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk. Okay. All right, committee, if there be nothing else to come before the committee, is there any announcements or personal orders? I will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. We are adjourned.